Hello, everyone. My name is Paula Newbern, and I'm with Touchdown Organization. Thank you for tuning in. This program and this episode that I'm recording and bringing to you is called Sold Out Sisters, S.O.S. And Sold Out Sisters is an idea that the Lord put in my heart. Um, I am going to be interviewing and talking with just conversation, just a regular conversation with sisters in Christ of mine that I know that are sold out to the Lord. They have a heart for God. They love the Lord. They love His Word, and they bow down to Him. And the first person that I'm going to interview is a beautiful woman of God. Her name is Dorin Bills, and we've known each other for a long time. Dorin, say hello to the people.
Hello, people.
Dorin, this Sold Out Sisters is an idea that God gave me,
hmm
and I want to kind of get a little background and history on you and I.
Okay.
People know there's so much I could talk about with you, but I'm going to not keep it too long. But start out telling people how we met. Do you remember?
Well, I know we met because I married your brother, and that's how we met. So you became my little sister-in-law that used to hang out with me all the time.
All the time.
We used to be here and there and everywhere.
Yeah.
I
Doran.
think that. Hmm?
I said I loved some Doran.
Well, I guess back then I was young and you were younger, and
Doran, what was
I
I?
think,
Probably about, was that like 18 or 19? I think I was right out of high school. I met you.
yeah, because I'm probably like about what, 5 years older than you? I don't know how much older.
No, I'm 58. I hate to tell my age right now. I'm
Oh,
58.
okay, so we are the same. Well, I guess you were still my little sister though.
Yeah, because I was very immature.
Yeah, we were. We were.
I was mature and gullible and didn't have many friends growing up, but it was a pleasure hanging out with you, though it was a worldly hangout.
Yeah, it really was. Because you know what? I hadn't established any type of relationship with the Lord. I believe that He, had His hands on us even back then. But, I was just as much as in the world as you or, anybody else was, because I didn't have that understanding. Now that I'm looking at it today, it's amazing that even though our relationship started from me marrying your brother, God had just such a much bigger plan that had nothing to do with that. He used that relationship as a vehicle to bring our relationship together,
Yeah.
because He knew the plans that He had for us in today's time and moving forward. So I mean, a lot of stuff has happened between those years and now, because I want to say that was in the early 80s.
Yeah, that was in the early 80s.
So it was a long time ago and a lot has happened, but
Yes.
I mean, some amazing things have happened through the experiences that you and I had together, and then once we went our separate ways and you went on and lived your life and I went on and lived mine, God has brought us back together. Um, and then even a whole lot of years have gone by since we've come back together. A lot of growing, a lot of learning, a lot of gleaning, and a lot of understanding that of the plans, some of a glimpse of the plans that God had for us, even before we even knew, even before I even was thinking about God, or maybe before you were even thinking about Him. He knew the plans that He had for us.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing that we're coming together now.
Joy, I wanted to ask you, I have some questions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to ask you, how were you raised? Did you grow up going to church every Sunday, or, you know?
So we were raised Catholic. I went to Catholic grade school, and I went to Catholic school until about the 8th grade.
Okay.
So we were raised Catholic, and in the Catholic school, you go to mass every single day.
Okay.
Um, my parents didn't. Um, we didn't really. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So I believe that the original reason that we went to a parochial school was because my parents wanted to try to give us a really good education, which all of us did go.
Right.
Um, but I do believe that even though we were going to mass every day and, at a Catholic school and learning about Jesus, I believe that even though we may not have known that a foundation was being set, a Jesus foundation was being set, and it really was, because later on in life you kind of all the stuff that you used to do in mass and that you were learning in classroom and that you were learning about God, all of that starts to come to you when you start to establish a relationship with him. Then you start remembering scriptures and from the Bible that you were reading every day at mass, or and so the foundation, I think my mother and father really wanted to set that foundation of God with us, even though it may not have seemed, it just seemed like they're sending us to Catholic schools so we can get a good education.
Well, Dory, our household, I think, first of all, that I had praying grandparents. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my father wasn't raised by his dad, but his mother was on fire, you know, um, for God. We were the household that, I think in the city of St. Louis, we're from St. Louis, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
We were in that time frame. We came along in that time frame that um, blacks were moving from one area to another, buying houses. It was kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, a prosperity time as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
my older siblings, I come from 8 children between my mother and father, and I'm the baby.
Mm-hmm.
But the older four, they went through a lot, and the younger four of us, we came along when my father was doing much better, had a good paying job,
Mm-hmm.
bought a new house, had a new
Mm-hmm.
car, and we did, our household did a lot of, I would say, secular things. We uh, my mother started working. She was a housewife for years.
Mm-hmm.
Parents got married very early, as they did, as everyone did back in those
Mm-hmm.
days. But we were Easter Sunday church,
Mm-hmm.
and my oldest sister would take me and my other sister, who was just maybe almost 2 years older than me. We would get dressed for Easter. But that is what I remember, from when I was a little girl, that I could remember, maybe 3 years old, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
We would get dressed up for Easter and we would go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And then, my parents divorced when I was in the third grade, I believe. So then I started, me and my sister would go over to my father's mother's house,
Mm-hmm.
and my grandmother, and she was like a praying person that would be shouting in the house.
Mm-hmm.
We see her praying at night. We would see her, she would go to a, a little church, a little storefront church, as they call them, with some
Mm-hmm.
friends during the week. And they would have us sit in the back of the church, and they would be up there. They would be praying and shouting, and me and my sister would be playing, but at the same time, we would be back there laughing.
Mm-hmm.
But God, like you said, He was planting seed, uh,
Yeah.
and who knew that that would be my future, that I would be going to church
Yeah.
and going up to that altar and praying, and praying
Right.
for people, praying
Yeah.
for the world, praying for our leaders.
Yeah. It's
You know,
funny you say that though, because even though we were going to Catholic school every day, my mother's mother, if my mother, we would go over there and spend a night at over her house over the weekend all the time, and we would go. She did not play. We walked to church every Sunday with her, and we were there from the 8:30 or whatever time Sunday school to the programs that came after service all day long. So she was a praying grandmother too, and I believe a lot of that foundation came from her praying for us too. But if you spent the night over there over the weekend, you better believe you're getting up Sunday morning and you're going to be at church for Sunday school, and you're going to stay for all the afternoon programs. So
Yeah.
I remember that.
Listen,
The
I thank
candy store,
God.
on break, we go to the candy store, get some candy, and then get back to church. And
I thank God for those praying saints
yeah,
of the old days, man.
yeah,
They believed in God.
yeah,
Uh, they loved God.
yeah.
You know, my grandmother didn't play with us. You know, we got in trouble. We got in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
She was very particular about, hey, you know, I will spank
Mm-hmm.
you. And I thank God for that. And I thank God, you know, my father, after they divorced, my father got married when I was in the fifth grade.
Mm-hmm.
And he married a lady that went to church.
Mm-hmm.
And so he really did, I would say, inspire him to get back in church, even though the pastor of this church, it was a small Baptist family oriented church. It was very small, but
Mm-hmm.
he didn't, that pastor, he didn't separate kids except for like Sunday school, which we did. We went from not going to church,
Mm-hmm.
me and my sister, to being at church almost 7 days a week. And maybe it was only 3, but you know, you had church on Sunday, you had to maybe have a visiting church
Mm-hmm.
evening. You had church on. You had choir. We were in the choir, so we had choir rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
We had prayer meeting and Bible study. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and this pastor, who was very intelligent, I mean, I think he was a professor. I believe he taught other ministers and pastors in the city of St. Louis that had the smaller churches or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he would have us read the word. And I remember reading the book of Daniel and reading the book of Revelation, but he would call on us as kids to stand up and read it.
Mm-hmm.
I realize and understand now that he was like you were, that word was getting in you through
Mm-hmm.
those Catholic schools. He was putting that word down. And I remember really actually being afraid of God,
Yeah.
you know, and, but God used that situation
Yeah.
to begin to give us drips of him, you know, and exposing us to Christ. And it was a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then, you know, we were staying with my father and my mother. And then
Mm-hmm.
we end up going to live with my father, my stepmother. We end up going to live with my mother. And then she began to get into church. I mean, we went to a church that my oldest sister and her husband went to. They baptized us again. We were sitting on the moaning bench, you know, we
Mm-hmm.
the morning bench, but we've been through quite a bit of religious stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
But flash forward, you and I have been through quite a few uh, tragedies.
Yeah.
You know, we've had family members close to us murdered.
Yeah.
Uh, you've lost a child.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot of emotional pain and
Yeah.
heartache, both of us, in
Mm-hmm.
our lifetime. Uh, I'm not really going to go into that. I don't want you to go into that,
Mm-hmm.
but you can just testify, but God, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what really kind of make me reflect on the things that I've been through is that people were like, when people would find out the stuff that I've been through, then they would be like, I don't know how you made it. And I promise you, I don't know how I made it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like, I'm not saying I skirted right through it. I just went right through it like it didn't affect me. That's not what I'm saying. But as I got older, I started to think on some things, and I'm thinking, how did I get through those things? And it couldn't be anybody but God that that buffered me or held me up or gave me peace or kept me, because how did I get through that stuff without losing my mind? And the things that I went through, I'm not saying the things that you went through are not what happens today, but the things that I went through are just life, things that happen in life. Um, but I think you've been through, I'm not weighing whose is more tragic, but the things that I feel that you went through, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. So I know, I just know that God had kept me through it all, and I didn't really think about how tragic things were until people would always say, "Oh, I don't know how you, handle that." And I know it was only Him. I know it was His mercy and His grace.
Yeah.
That's the only way that I got through it. I know it's nobody but God.
We were actually going through with God, and we
Yeah,
didn't even know that God was holding us and
yeah,
cradling us, but He did, and I think He does everybody. And when you continuously go over your pain,
hmm,
I think you don't really actually have the healing. You
yeah,
really have to say, God, help me. You
hmm,
really have to let go and let God. And I know there's a lot of people out there who have had close ones murdered, have been through, the loss of someone very close,
hmm,
have dealt with people in their family members on drugs and addicted to alcohol or whatever, and just don't get their
hmm,
way out. And we know that God, we have watched things. I have watched things happen to family members, and it was painful, but God gave me such an understanding of first healing me, from things that I personally went through, healing my emotions, because
hmm,
your emotions can just take you over the edge.
hmm,
And I think that's why a lot of people end up suicidal.
hmm,
A lot of people end up uh, just wounded, the walking wounded, which becomes
hmm.
the walking dead.
Yeah.
You can be living and still be dead because you're so in pain about things that
Yeah.
happened to you and been done to you.
Hmm.
I remember listening to a lady, she was probably in her 80s or 90s, and she was at a church I was going to, and she was giving a testimony, and she just broke down crying. And I thought, Lord, she's not healed yet.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying 80s and you're
Yeah,
80 or 90 years old and you still have not healed.
still have not healed. And I thought, I don't want to be, I don't want to grow old and still be
Yeah.
dwelling on my past.
Yeah.
Surely there's freedom out here. Surely there is a place that we can come to, that
Hmm.
we can live life to the fullest, that we can have joy, we can have
Hmm.
peace,
Yeah.
we can have rest. And I found that in God. I found it in His Word.
Yeah.
And I remember, um, people pray for things, and then when God gives them to them, they complain and
Mm-hmm.
murmur about it. I remember thinking all my friends were getting married. Everybody in my family married young. I wasn't married. I didn't get married until I was 32.
Hmm.
And I remember praying for a husband. And then when God gave me the husband, I was murmuring and
Hmm.
complaining about him, and it's
Hmm.
because I was not rooted and grounded in God. I didn't have those emotions. God hadn't really healed me yet.
Hmm.
So wounded people wound each other.
Yeah.
And I remember wanting to divorce. And I don't know who doesn't go through that
Hmm.
when you
Hmm.
first married and the
Hmm.
honeymoon is over.
Hmm.
God, He began to deal with me. He began to cleanse me and wash me, and He was my psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it. But He put me on that couch, and He just began to heal me and deal with me. And I'm so glad that me and my husband just reached 26 years. How long have you been married, Dorin?
30 years, 31 years. It's funny that you say that though, because it's like you did not say, well, now I want to get a divorce because it's not what I thought it was going to be. You didn't say that God's went and started dealing with your husband. You said God started dealing with you.
He started
And that's
dealing with
what he
me.
does. We're over here, we're complaining about it. He's this and that and the other. And God's saying, well, what about you? And he
What
doesn't
about
even deal
you?
with him. He goes straight to me and says, what about you? I need for
What
you to
about
get together.
yes, yes. He he God changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about the Father, the Son, His
And
Son,
the
Jesus Christ, and His Holy Ghost. They are
spirit.
all the same. They work together for your good.
Absolutely.
Um, you
Yeah.
know, God loves a broken spirit. He
Mm-hmm.
loves that. He loves brokenness because he can, if you allow him to, he can take you
Mm-hmm.
and mend you. He can heal you. He
Yeah.
can make you so malleable that you're like silver and you're like gold. All
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that we learned, he put before we even come here. I think he gives us all this great stuff in us, and
Mm-hmm.
then we get here, all the negative stuff begins to intervene. All the stuff that we go through in life, all the hurt, all the pain, all the stuff that we go through, it becomes a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
So God, when you get God in your life, when you start walking and talking with Him and living for Him and really getting rooted in that Word, um,
Mm-hmm.
God is able to change your heart. He's able to clean you up. He's able to take away all that negative stuff. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like this. I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he make me sick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person that said all those things. And I did ask my husband to leave, and I thought, and I don't know what happened because I asked him to leave.
But he didn't go,
And
huh?
and and then after a minute, I forgot that I had asked him to leave, and it's so funny because we just kind of stayed clear of each other for about a week or two,
Mm-hmm.
as much as we could stay clear of each other in a house.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
God started. He started working on me. He started working on my mouth and my attitude. A lot of women we've been raised in a world that women are sassy and
Mm-hmm.
itchy toed and two snaps in a circle and all this stuff. And I'm sure I'm dating myself. I'm sure that's not they're still I don't know if they're still doing that, if they're still talking that way. But this God worked on
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Me too. And I mean, I again, it comes back to our friendship because, once you started to realizing how God wanted you to be in your marriage and taught you how to be in your marriage, it really helped me because you were able to talk to me and share with me ways to be able to, handle the things that were going on in my marriage. And so, it just me trying to always keep my focus on God and get my focus off of me and what I thought and what I wanted. You know, it's always the focus always has to come back to God. It always has to come back to Him because He's the only person that's steering the ship, and you have to let him. You have to be pliable and let Him make and mold and change, and you have to be able to look in that mirror of God and say what I need to change, because that's what He does. He always brings you to yourself and makes you look at you and say, no, you think this is right? Do you think that is right? And those, you have to be able to look at yourself and see that you need to change some things.
Yeah. And Dory, I've never, we are I always say we are just ordinary people,
Hmm.
everyday ordinary people who the world
Hmm.
know, walks past and don't acknowledge and
Hmm.
probably may never acknowledge us.
Hmm.
They may never see us as anybody. We're not stars. We're not, famous. We're not even famous in our own circles. We're
Hmm.
not the head of, the church or, we're really just ordinary people. But
Hmm.
we're ordinary people, but we have this extraordinary God who has
Yeah,
given us an extraordinary life.
absolutely.
And I'm not talking about, yes, we suffered pain. Yes, we've suffered loss. Yes, we've suffered emotional hurt.
Hmm.
You know, uh, we've gone through a lot. But here we are, joyful,
Yeah,
encouraged,
absolutely.
in spite of what's going on.
Yeah, grateful.
we are grateful, we are
Yes, Lord.
thankful because God has given us that. Um, and then we've learned, I was going to say that I've never really went after anything in my life. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if there's, you know, whoever may listen to this, you've always started something but didn't finish it.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those people. I've lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really interest me. And I thought, I had met so many people who were gifted in so many things, singing,
Mm-hmm.
drawing, writing,
Mm-hmm.
just very talented and gifted. And I thought, well, what am I talented with? And when we were growing up, did you have this saying, children, your parents had a lot of children too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they always said children should be seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm.
So you shut down. You just sit and watch. You had to be quiet when you went to someone's house. You had to be well mannered,
Mm-hmm.
everything, which is fine. I believe kids should be well mannered.
Mm-hmm.
But when you tell somebody they should be seen and not heard, some people are gifted with their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Some people they call it back in the day the gift of gab.
Mm-hmm.
And so come to find out that, that's part of my gifting is that I can talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
and what God does, the people that you see that talk a lot of trashy stuff or foolish stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they are gifted in gab. But the thing is that if you plug into the right source,
Right.
if you tune in your channel,
Mm-hmm.
Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, your gift gab will become
Yeah.
beautiful. You'll become full of Christ, and your
Mm-hmm.
words will go out and they will touch people,
Mm-hmm.
heal people, to bless people,
Mm-hmm.
teach people.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not know that God wanted that I had this gift, the gift of gab.
Mm-hmm.
The old way of saying it, but that my words would be turned around. My words were used for saying the wrong things, and now God has taught me to use my mouth to glorify Him first of all,
Yes. Yes.
but to
Yes.
lift people up and
Yes.
to encourage them. And I believe you have that as well. You have that gift as well. You're able to, you know,
There's a difference, though. Well, I'm not gonna say there's a difference between me and you because there isn't. But you have more control than I do because I'll be ready to.
we all be ready, girl. We,
But you have a way of calming it down where you just like because I think you also have that gift of being able to shut it off. Like, no, I'm not gonna. So don't bring that stuff to me. I don't want to hear that. So, but you have a calming effect, and so I don't just like, I don't have a potty mouth or anything like that. That's never been me. That's not me. But I might be thinking some stuff in my head. Uh, but I always even have to get that in check. But you just have a way of, like you say, God has given you a gift with words, and those words are those, and it's a two-edged sword that cuts both ways, because you will bring his word in your conversation, but at the same time you're able to share hope and encouragement through his word.
and
You
you are
have
too. And
a calming effect in your words. You
I
really
think
do.
that anybody who picks up this word right here, this is an NIV version of the Holy Bible. I
Mm-hmm.
think that anybody who dedicates themselves to this word, God will begin to use them. And anybody who seeks them, that's another thing, Dory. Um, I think that God began to reveal Himself to us first, just by
Mm-hmm.
the conversations we've had, and
Mm-hmm.
then So we know that God will come after His.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned that,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have to seek Him.
Yeah.
You still have to seek Him by prayer and praying and
Mm-hmm.
reading the Word. And Dory, would you say that you are a persistent and consistent reader of the word and prayer?
So I don't want to sit up here and say, oh, every day I open up the Bible and I read, because that would not be true, but I always get some part of his word in me every day. But talking to him is consistent every day with him. I'm conversating with him. I'm talking with him because, for one thing, it doesn't work without him. So if I even want to wake up in the morning and start without him, it just doesn't work. I work a job so that if it's
Yeah.
so on days that I'm tired and I get up and I roll out of bed and I go and I start working and I didn't ask the Holy Spirit to be with me today, to lead and guide me that day, my day goes off the rails. I have to catch myself and come back and say, oh, I did not even remember to ask you, Lord, to be with me today.
Mm.
Um, but but he'll wake me up in the middle of the night, and I know if I wake up in the middle of the night that he's wanting to pour into me. And so I try my best to get a part of his word somewhere down in me every day. And I'm always talking to him. I'm always talking to him. Because I can't do this without him.
Yeah.
And he's taught me that he's there for me. That all I have to do is really it's a thought. All I have to do is really have a thought,
Yeah.
and he hears me. He responds to me.
Yes. People need
It's
to know that people are always like, where is God? And people need to know that he is so real.
he is.
He's not a man. He's not us. He's not flesh and blood. He's
Mm-mm.
all knowing, right? He's all seeing. He has become our everything. That's what you're communicating right now. He has
Mm-hmm.
become your everything. So when you put time into him, he puts time into you. When you are in need of something, rest, peace, joy, contentment, if you put time into him, you're going to receive those things from him. He knows, the Father knows what you need. I mean, he knows if you're hungry, he knows if you need a roof over your head.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want anyone to be worried today, do we, Dory, about
No,
anything that's happening
no,
in this world, because God
no,
is so big. He made the world.
absolutely.
The
And
Bible
knows
says that
everything that's going on.
yes, the Bible says that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Yeah,
Everything in it and
absolutely.
everybody in it
Yeah,
belongs to him.
yeah,
So he knows, he tells us not to worry about tomorrow. Just focus on today, because when you
yeah,
start worrying about tomorrow,
yeah,
when you get out of your peace and out of your
yeah,
joy.
yes, yes.
But if you got a bologna sandwich to eat today, eat your
Yeah,
bologna sandwich and be glad about it. Tomorrow, who knows? You may have steak.
yeah,
You know, if you um, if you are a person that are into things and stuff, and your world has been turned upside down, and you're worried about losing all your things and stuff, God really is just talking,
yes.
because Dory, we can't focus on things and stuff, can we?
Mm-mm.
Um,
And and I want to just say this because I had to learn, and I know um, he has to be more important than your spouse, your children, your siblings, your material things. God has to be more important than all of that.
yes,
He got to be number one. He
yes,
has to be.
yes. And he said, Jesus said that, in this world you will have many troubles, but
Hmm.
I have, but rest assured, he overcame the,
Yes.
you know, he overcame the world. And being in God, he said, I will supply all your needs according to my riches and glory in Jesus.
Yes.
So he said he would supply our needs, but he's not, some people, if he gave them, they're like, I want $1 million,
Hmm.
I want $1 billion. But
Hmm.
him giving that to you may very well send your soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody can't handle wealth like,
Hmm.
and, the Bible also says that, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed
Mhm.
are the poor,
Mhm.
because they will inherit
Yes.
the kingdom of God.
Yes.
So, for those of you who are poor, or who are living, day by day, rest assured
Mhm.
that you got some mansions in the sky.
Mhm.
You got some mansions, you got some streets paved with gold coming your way. Be
Mhm.
grateful and be thankful for that
Yeah.
God is keeping you alive, that you may be going through some things. Hey, we've all had our poverty and poorness. And we've
Mhm.
all been through struggles in life. And um, years ago, the Lord told me to quit my job.
Mhm.
And I thought, this is not God. Surely he doesn't want me to quit my
Mhm.
job. And he kind of forced my hand because I started having sickness in my body.
Mhm.
And so I was kind of forced to leave the job.
Mhm.
Um, I began to stay home with my children. Something
Mhm.
that I had dreamed about that
Mhm.
years ago, that I would love to be at home with my kids,
Mhm.
but me and my husband need this two income. I thought
Right.
traveling around the world.
Mhm.
I want to do so many things, but God said it's not time.
Yeah.
And so He had me to stay at home, and I had to trust God to make a way. And I'm gonna tell you something. He will truly send people before you. There are Christians who are sold out, and they have been on that back burner. They have been in the valley for a long time. They are waiting for God to bring them forth.
Mhm.
They have sold out. They have lost everything.
Mhm.
And I did. I lost my house. I lost my car. All those things that, we treasure,
Mhm.
we hold dearly.
Mhm.
And I had a long walk. God did send us out, and me and my husband, we went to different cities, and God just said, strange. It was strange, but we had to pray. We prayed for people. We prayed
Mhm.
for the city. We
Mhm.
were just some praying, and fasting. I was doing a lot of fasting, Doris. And
Oh,
I
hold
met.
on, Paula, 1 second.